Parachute is a California-based brand. They've been around for a little over a decade now. They're climate neutral certified. They use Okotex fabrics, and then a lot of their fabrics are made in a family-run factory in Portugal. Some of their bedding is made in the U.S. And then in addition to like bedding and bath linens, they have like some home goods and furniture and stuff, but I think that most people would primarily consider them to be a bedding brand. Quince has been around for a little less time now, about 7 years, I think. And their whole thing is like luxury basics for less. They're very affordable. And some of that they kind of achieve through their like direct to consumer model. They cut out the middleman, you know, and then some of that is also their sourcing. They're not as transparent about their sourcing for their bedding as like a company like Parachute. Don't get me wrong, I am a diehard Quince fan. I have I get a lot of my clothes, my basics from them. I have like some very cute sweaters, probably the comfiest pair of sweatpants that I own. But their manufacturing transparency just isn't the same as Parachute, and I think that that's part of why they're able to price their sheets a little bit more affordable. Quince does make a point to emphasize ethical factories and fair wages on their site. They don't have the same certifications listed as Parachute does, though, when it comes to their fabrics, their climate neutrality, stuff like that. They do have a lot of bedding options, but I don't think that most people see them as like a bedding brand, the way that people think of, or the way that at least I think of Parachute as a bedding brand. They're kind of, I think of Quince more of like a clothing and accessory brand that also has some home goods. Okay, so let's talk bedding options. Parachute sells, sheet sets, quilts, duvets, mattress toppers, all that good stuff. For fabrics, they have a percale cotton, which is like super crispy cotton, linen, European flax linen, brushed cotton, which is what I have, sateen, which is that kind of like silkier cotton weave, and then a Tencel-linen blend, which is linen blended with Tencel lyocell, which gives it kind of like a little bit more of like a silkiness. Their sheets run about $250 to $350 for a queen set, depending on which fabric you choose. And they don't have a ton of color options for each set. They tend to stick to, neutral colors and earth tones. There's anywhere from about 5 to a dozen colors, depending on the fabric, and then no pattern options other than stripes. Their most popular fabrics come in, a dozen colors with the stripes. The ones that are less popular, maybe like the brushed cotton, which should be more popular, I'll get to that in a minute, only come in about 5 colors. Quince has similar bedding options to Parachute, like duvets, quilts, sheet sets, all that good stuff. And they have, their sheets come in percale, sateen, brushed cotton, linen, flannel, bamboo, which is what I have, and they even have mulberry silk. Some of their sheet sets, especially the cotton, the percale, and the sateen, cost as little as $100 for a queen set, but then they can go up to, the silk set is I think $500. Like Parachute, they have a lot of earth tones, some striped options, but then they also have some kind of like gingham prints. Some of their cotton sheets have like decorative piping on them. And then like depending on which fabric you choose, they come in anywhere from only like a handful of color options to 3 dozen for their linen, which looks like it's the most popular. So I own a brushed cotton sheet set from Parachute, and a bamboo set from Quince. And I know it's not really the most straightforward comparison since the fabrics are very different, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because I'm in charge here and because I think it's worth mentioning. These are the softest sheets that I own. They're breathable and like have a little bit of weight to them still, to like, or maybe not weight, more like structure to them. Like you can see, they're not super thick or anything. So they don't like cling to your skin, but they don't have that like kind of starchy crispness of percale. They've got kind of like a vintage worn in t-shirt or like worn flannel feel to them. I like the way they look. I think they wrinkle really nicely. They've got that kind of like lived in look. You can iron them if you want. They're 100% cotton. And I think they're great for, especially if you sleep hot, because they are very, very breathable, but they're not so drapey that they'll like kind of cling against your skin. I would seriously make these my go-to everyday sheets. I think, if only for the fact that they only come in 5 colors, like I said, and I like the look of like a crisp white spa sheet, but sometimes I like to mix it up a little bit. So Parachute, make more colors and then call me. Bamboo sheets from Quince. These are super silky and drapey, which I know like that's why a lot of people love bamboo. My one problem with it is that it does get clingy if you sleep hot. That being said, it does feel like nice and cool to the touch, and I feel like if I have like the air conditioner on, it like absorbs that cool air almost, and they feel really nice and cool for a while after I get into bed. I love the color that they came in. Bamboo has a lot of, bamboo. Oh my gosh. Let me try that again. I love the color that they came in, because Quince has a lot of great colors for their sheets. The only thing I don't love about them is that they're like they've got this like sheen to them, and I'm like a matte sheet girl. That's also just the nature of bamboo, though. I think I've had these for a while now, and they've held up really well. I sleep in them pretty regularly, and I wash my sheets once a week. There's maybe starting to pill just a little bit in some places, probably from when I'm doing my karate moves in my sleep. But they have held up really well. They look nice. I don't love the way that, again, this is more of a bamboo thing than a Quince thing. I don't love the way that bamboo wrinkles. I feel like it doesn't look like, whereas this it kind of has that like natural like farmhouse style look when it's a little wrinkly. This to me just looks a little sloppy. Personal preference. I also find that bamboo tends to get like a little bit floppy and stretched out, especially like the fitted sheet. It kind of like bows in weird places. Again, that's a difference between the fabrics, not necessarily the brands, which is why I said this is like not quite the most fair comparison. So Parachute wins out for me on some of the small details. Like, I don't know if you can see on the camera too well, but the stitching is just like a little bit neater on the Parachute sheets than the Quince has like a couple of. And then like, I know it's like a small detail and it won't matter to most people, but even like the tags, like I feel like Parachute just looks a little bit like higher quality and upscale, and like, you know, Quince looks a little bit more fast fashion-y, even though it's like, I would consider it a step above fast fashion for sure. It's like I said, it's a stupid little detail. It probably won't matter to a lot of people, but if it does matter to you, that's okay too. I figure it's just something worth pointing out. At the end of the day, it kind of just comes down to like what you value more, you know. I think that Parachute is higher quality, it's more sustainable, but it does come at that boutique price point. Quince might not last as long or look quite as luxurious, but it's definitely more affordable and it's a great value for the price. I got these Parachute sheets for my guest room, and I got the Quince sheets for my primary bedroom. And I like them both, but if I had to do it again, I'd probably swap them and make these like my everyday go-to, and then have like a bunch of rotating like seasonal Quince sheets in fun colors for the guest room, just to like mix it up. You know, like holiday colors and stuff would be really fun. But like I said, I'm really happy with both of them. It just comes down to like what, you know, what you value most. If you've tried either of these, leave me a comment, let me know. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you want to see more of these comparisons, like this video and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.